my name is Sarah, and today I'm going to be doing a quick wrap-up of my July reads. July was a big reading month for me. Reading Rush was part of it, and so it definitely helped bump up some of my reading statistics. But even outside of that, I read a lot of books. I read a total of 30 books this month, with a total page count of 10,500 pages of the books that I finished. It's kind of crazy because I don't feel like I'm reading a book a day. And then I just go through a lot, and I look back and I'm like, wow, I read essentially a book a day throughout the month of July. In an interest of time, I'm obviously not going to go through all 30 of those books, but I will pick up on a couple of those themes. I read a number of really awesome dystopians this month, from The Gracier, which is like an interesting take on a dystopian because it's more of a dystopian that almost feels like it would be set more in the past, to Oryx and Crake, which is now one of my favorite dystopians I've ever read, to The Rule of One, which felt like a very fresh dystopian and an interesting take on one-child policies, which is a very popular dystopian theme. I also read a lot of books centered around Greek mythology and Greek culture. This month I read the Iliad, which was something that I was really excited about, and I'm sure will come up more in future videos. It was actually one of my top 5 books that I will be talking about very shortly. I read The Silence of the Girls, which was a take on the Iliad from Briseis's perspective. And then I read Lysistrata and Aeschylus, which is basically a Spartan warrior novel. And I really enjoyed all of those. In fact, I actually bought this month the Edith Hamilton mythology book, and I'm super excited to go through more of that. More and more, I'm just realizing that I've completely fallen in love with ancient Greece and ancient Roman mythology and culture. I read a couple of comic books as well this month, which I was really proud of. The Old Guard and Saga were both spot on, phenomenal comic books that make me want to read more in those series. And I actually got a ton of LGBTQ+ representation in the books that I read. Red, White, and Royal Blue was a super sweet novel that I'm so happy that I read. And Stay Gold by Toby McSmith was another really awesome one. It felt very high school-ish when I read it, but as you got more and more into the novel, it was incredibly well done. So now for my overall top 5 books of July. My first 2 I've already talked about on my Reading Rush TBR video, so I'm not going to go too far into them, but they are The Hate You Give and Oryx and Crake. I highly recommend both of these books, especially The Hate You Give. I think that was one of the most impactful books and some of the best characterization I've ever read. Oryx and Crake is more of a intrigue type of take that I really enjoyed. It was a dystopian that felt very new to me and very interesting, with still some of the typical dystopian aura to it. Probably the biggest surprise out of my top 5 is the first in the Mistborn series, which is The Final Empire. I have this kind of conception in my head that I'm not gonna like high fantasy, like big traditional fantasy books that are more geared towards adults. I'm not sure why, and it's definitely a habit I need to break, because I really enjoyed this first Mistborn book. Once I got into it, the entire magic system that they build around these characters is super interesting. The characters are awesome. I really thought it was going to be hard for me to follow such a large cast, but because you have so long to get to know the characters and eventually all the storylines kind of converge, they all start making a little bit more sense, and it's a lot easier to follow than I thought. Vin is such a cool character, and I really enjoyed her relationship with Ellen, and just in general I liked Ellen's character, and I like that you had like a overall story arc that's finished in one book. You start out a goal at the beginning of the book and it completely ends, which I really enjoyed. I know there's more in their series, which I can see how they can jump off from this point, but it's nice that there's a feeling of completeness when you end this novel, which I wasn't really expecting to enjoy so much, but it's now something that I will be looking out for in new first in the series, is just feeling like something's been accomplished at the end of the book. My 4th 5-star book was Saga Volume 1. More and more I'm realizing that comic books are such an interesting medium to tell stories, because there is this ability to show both a visual story and to provide commentary in just like in background in the character's thoughts. And I'm really coming to appreciate that more. Saga has interesting alien characters, more so than I think I've seen in other like sci-fi books that had aliens. They all feel a little bit human, but then they vary so much, which is really cool to see. And my final 5-star book that I'm going to talk about is the Iliad. I read the Iliad back in college, and I read it kind of piecemeal, and I read it for a class, so I didn't really get to absorb it. But going back and rereading it knowing which characters I already like, gave me so much more perspective, and I really enjoyed a lot. It makes me appreciate the modern interpretations that you have of the Iliad, because they actually are decently true to form. I hated Agamemnon just as much in the Iliad as I did when I was reading Song of Achilles, if not more. And then like some of the modern videos that I've watched on it, for example, like Overly Sarcastic Productions summary of the Iliad, when they say that they carve like a bloody murder canyon through the Trojan forces when Achilles like goes berserk, I didn't realize how graphic it was going to be. It is extremely graphic in the original work, and I love it even more for it. Overall, I am so excited that I reread it. I think the audiobook that I used to reread it did a very good job at helping differentiate all the characters. Also, side note, makes me love Diomedes and Odysseus so much more. Diomedes is now up there on like higher up my favorite characters ever list, and Odysseus is so sneaky and so fun that how could you not really enjoy him? Just, it makes me so happy that there's these books that are really, really old, but still bring so much joy and entertainment to me. So that was my July 2020 wrap up. I read a number of books that I really enjoyed. I stretched some of my boundaries, and I felt like I overall made myself a better reader this month. And for that, I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.